If you're not familiar with Mary's work, we'd recommend the Zooms that Mary has done with the SIG that Gareth and others run, and we can share the links to those Zooms. What I'd like to share with you in my sort of 3-4 minutes are three things. Firstly, a video that Mary has done with us. Secondly, a set of 4 blogs that were taken based on that video, and finally just notification of a forthcoming publication on spread and adoption of innovation. So the first item, the video that we did with Mary earlier this year, based on the previous Zooms that Mary did with the SIG, we were very keen to explore adaptive spaces and spread and adoption of innovation. By the time we got our call set up, it was May and we were in the early stages of COVID. So what had been envisaged as a fairly short conversation developed into a much longer one that is recorded and available. And I'll pop the links to the recording and to the blogs in the chat box just when I finish. But that video is full of nuggets of information from Mary, and obviously I'm biased, but I would highly recommend it to you. And again, our thanks to Mary for giving of her time so generously and freely, and of her expertise. So from that video, we've pulled out 4 blogs to summarize key points within the video, because we know not everyone will have time to have a look at it. So I'm just going to very briefly run through them, and I'll, as I say, give you the links to the blogs. The first one talks about complexity leadership response, as Gareth mentioned, that in a complex situation often we see an ordered response, and what we need is a complexity leadership response, and that involves a good operational response, so in the case of COVID, testing and PPE, but also an adaptive response, and that's where the adaptive space comes in at a local level to allow for that responsiveness, that adaptation to the local setting. So that's explored in the first blog. The second one talks about creating adaptive spaces, builds on what Gareth's just explained. Talks about the wall of resistance, and I think importantly talks about the window of opportunity that COVID has given us, whereby the system's been unfrozen, and the opportunity through the creation of adaptive spaces to bring in new innovation. And I think we've seen that things have happened so quickly, the spread of innovation so rapidly. But back in May, Mary warned us that system would start to close up again, would start to freeze, and that rapid change would become harder. And I think we've started to see that already. The third blog talks about the importance of local adaptation, the power of the local, and the final one talks about how important a leadership style that is enabling is to innovation, spread and adoption. Talks about that wall of resistance Gareth mentioned, about the mindset shifts that are required from all involved, and the fact that an enabling leadership is about creating the conditions for spread and adoption of change. It's about creating those adaptive spaces. So that's a very quick gallop through.